Today, 7 a.m., you're standing in front of your closet. A walk-in closet packed to the brim with Black Friday loot. You're pulling your hair out, staring blankly, and muttering that familiar mantra. Ugh, I have absolutely nothing to wear. Oh, the irony. But hundreds of thousands of years ago, our ancestors proudly ran around buck naked in the wild. They conquered the wilderness, hunted, and gathered in their completely natural, primitive state. The daily dilemma of what to wear today simply didn't exist. So, what happened? Why did a species living so free and breezy decide to grab some smelly animal pelts and wrap themselves up, only to doom themselves to the endless hassle of doing laundry and a fashion crisis that has lasted for hundreds of thousands of years? It all started when climate change wiped out the cool, shady forests. Welcome to the scorching African savanna. Fruits were off the menu. To survive, our ancestors had to upgrade to a more violent diet. Meat. Meanwhile, your brain was ballooning in size. It was a massive energy-guzzling machine, demanding premium fuel in the form of animal fat and protein. But there was a catch. If you wanted meat, you had to hunt. Out on the open plains, you didn't have the terrifying speed of a cheetah. You lacked the vicious fangs and claws of a lion. You were slow. You were weak. The only way to catch your prey? Running a marathon. Our ancestors hunted through sheer stubbornness. They would just jog along, relentlessly tailing an antelope under the blistering midday sun, waiting for hours on end, till the animal completely collapsed from exhaustion, dead from heat stroke. Science calls this persistence hunting. But to keep the body running at this grueling intensity, to win this life-or-death race without dropping dead from heat stroke like their prey, our ancestors had to make an insane biological gamble, ditching their thick, hot fur coats and unlocking millions of sweat glands. We evolved into nature's ultimate cooling machines, sweating to survive. The price to pay? We became the only primates on Earth completely naked. Sweating to cool off was fantastic during the day, but the moment the sun dipped below the horizon, temperatures on the savanna took a nosedive. Bone-chilling, freezing. That glorious midday nakedness was suddenly a biological disaster. Our ancestors started shivering violently in the biting wind. And suddenly, they really missed that thick, old fur coat they had just abandoned. Other animals spent tens of thousands of years patiently waiting for DNA mutation to grow a winter coat. But humans didn't have that kind of time. And the cold was brutal. Freeze to death. Or adapt. Every day our ancestors went hunting. They ate the meat. The bloody, tough, unchewable animal hides. They just tossed them into the corner of the cave like a pile of smelly trash. Till one freezing night, some bright ancestor looked at that pile of scraps and had a stroke of genius. I already ditched my fur coat, so I'll just borrow theirs. Throwing that bloody pelt over their shoulders, clothing was officially born. It had nothing to do with fashion. At first, it was really just a detachable fur coat, recycled from dinner leftovers. Crude, but effective. In anthropology, this turning point is known as Extra-Somatic Adaptation. For the very first time, a creature on Earth decided to use its intelligence to hack an artificial layer of protection, instead of desperately waiting for its body to evolve. There's a really popular myth out there that we started wearing clothes to keep sharp thorns from tearing our skin or jagged rocks from cutting us up. Dead wrong. If that logic held up, humanity's first invention would have been a pair of shoes or gloves, because your hands and feet are right there on the front lines, taking the most punishment during a hunt. But evolutionary history took a completely different turn. Actually, your body's built-in survival software is incredibly smart. Human feet can naturally grow thick, tough layers of calluses, durable as car tires, to handle dirt and rocks. But your torso? Not so much. Your body's core, where your beating heart, breathing lungs, and reproductive organs are safely tucked away, can never grow a hard, calloused shell. It remains soft, vulnerable. This exact biology forced us to prioritize draping animal hides over our chest and groin first. Primitive clothing was an essential shield, protecting our vital organs from scorching UV rays, disease-carrying insects, and sudden thermal shocks. And the archaeological evidence doesn't lie. Bone sewing needles from 120,000 years ago and traces of clothing lice dating back 170,000 years have been discovered, appearing way before the oldest known pair of shoes, which only popped up around 10,000 years ago. Tens of thousands of years rolled by. Bellies were full. Humanity started migrating across continents, and we were no longer terrified of freezing to death. Logically, just throwing on any random animal pelt should have been enough. But no. That thinking machine inside your skull started demanding more. Instead of settling for just being warm, our ancestors started meticulously grinding bones down into buttons. They patiently wove tree roots into complex fabrics, figured out how to dye them in vibrant colors, and even bedazzled them with shiny seashells. Why? Because that brilliantly intelligent brain started to recognize a pressure even more terrifying than the wild, the gaze of our peers. Imagine you're taking a stroll through the valley. You bump into a neighbor proudly and powerfully rocking a sleek, glossy leopard pelt slung across his shoulders. You look down at yourself, wrapped in a sloppy, patched-together loincloth made of balding field mouse skins. That disparity created an invisible, crushing weight. Evolutionary psychologists call this phenomenon theory of mind. It was a massive leap in cognitive evolution. You suddenly realize, other people are looking at me, they are judging me, and they have standards they're measuring me against. From that moment on, clothing officially got an upgrade. It was no longer just a wearable blanket to trap heat. It evolved into a social interface. It became a silent statement, telling the person across from you exactly who you are, what tribe you belong to, and whether your status is the ruler or the ruled, all before you even open your mouth. Clothing stopped just covering the body, it created identity. So, not knowing what to wear today? It isn't ridiculous. It's not some shallow, modern-day vanity. It's the weight of 300,000 years of evolution screaming in your subconscious. It's the distant echo of a creature that once stripped off its natural fur just to survive, only to spend the rest of its existence scavenging for new layers to wrap itself in, just to ask the universe one single question: who am I? So, what are you wearing today? Truth be told, I'm still naked.